He said that. All right, good morning, good morning. I'm assuming my wife is gonna, I think, try to, she's gonna try to monitor that chat. This is our presentation, but she's in the back of the room, so what does that look like? This is my wife, Lakeitha. My name is Michael. We are Flipping Dothan LLC, legally. We are house flippers, landlords. We work in education, she works in social work, but we want to go ahead and get started. Thank you, Kara. Social work. You have to. Okay, gotcha. So, Flipping 101. Back in November, December, I kind of put a Facebook post out there and say, hey, does anybody want to come and meet, learn some stuff? I am if nothing else, hopefully, honest person. And so I want to just be a resource to other people. Getting into flipping, you need nothing other than what we saw on HGTV. Right? We saw HGTV and we was like, oh, that looks fun, exciting. I love a transformation. So I'm the person who mows the yard, and then on the next morning, the first thing I want to see is that fresh cut lawn, right? Or if I wash the truck in the afternoon, I want to look at that fresh wash truck. So for me, it started with furniture. Buying a piece of the furniture store at the thrift store, paying $5 for it, painting it, putting fabric on it. That's kind of where this kind of started for me. At some point, we purchased a home, and then we purchased our second home. And that's when we met our realtor who's in the back, Kelly Dillon with Tri-State Realty. That's when we met Kelly. She helped us purchase our second home. And in those discussions with her, we discussed keeping our original home, which became our first rental property. Right? So we kept the first rental property, bought the second home, and kind of from there, have just opened up a whole onion, and it kind of has just grown from there. At this point, we have 4 rental properties here in Dothan. We flipped 8 houses so far. We closed on a house yesterday that we're gonna be ready to flip. If it doesn't sell, we have a person who's interested in buying it as is. And so we may not even flip it, we'll see. But then we're closing on our last finished flip last Friday. Fingers crossed, working on that. So things have been really kind of busy with us the last couple of months. And then, you know, as when you're doing this as a side hustle, I have found it kind of ebbs and flows. So things sometimes get hot, and sometimes things get kind of cold. Last year was kind of cold until the end of the year. And then kind of things started to kind of just kind of unfold and things of that nature. So that's kind of a quick introduction of who we are, and how we got here. And so those who know me personally know that I love to help people. I love to give as much as I get. And so in my previous reference, if I'm always sowing seed, I'll always be harvesting Christian, right? So I'm always going to be planting seed. So as part of your business practice, I would definitely, and that's part of your business plan, is to always sow seed. That's what you didn't take that part. You didn't take anything really, but that's just a life lesson. So today, this morning, guys, is really just our experiences. I asked Kelly to be here. We have a couple of realtors online. Christina is also a realtor here in Dothan. She's actually the agent who we're selling to our Nephew project. She is the agent for that buyer. She has done amazing work. I haven't talked to Christina personally, but we found out some information about how she fought for us in a appraisal that came back a little more than we expected. And she fought for us to keep, get our asking price. She fought the value for it. And she doesn't know we knew that, so she's just not learning that. But that means a lot. She's working for the seller, but she understood and sees what we're doing and the value that was there. And she didn't have to do that. And so I wanted to say thank you, Christina, for that. We definitely appreciate it. So in the chat, you online people, get with Christine if you need an agent here locally. I'm gonna get Kelly, if she will, will you put Kelly's information in the chat as well, her cell number?
And I can give everybody a card.
She'll give everybody a card in person, but we'll put her information in the chat as well, because having a good real estate agent, y'all, is key. Right, especially getting into this out of line and new, right? I cannot underestimate the power and the resources that a good real estate agent is, okay? All right, so this is a opportunity for us to come together and share. I'm up here in the front, I put a PowerPoint together, right? I put a PowerPoint together, but this is an opportunity for us to share, people who are like-minded and have a similar goal, right? I don't profess to be anything other than somebody who's done it. Right? And before we go any further, disclaimer. We are not real estate agents. We're not lenders. Right? We are people who have just done it. Right? So that's why I wanted some real estate folks to be here to kind of give you the more perspective of the real estate side. I don't know the lenders personally, but I can definitely put you in contact with people who would probably definitely as far as those entities. Okay? So we're not those things. We're not lenders and we're not real estate agents. So we're gonna start. I'm not sure what's going on with this person. They keep needing to be admitted. All right, so this PowerPoint is just as a guide for us. Okay, so if you have a question, even if you came in this room with a question, we can start there before we talk. Right? This PowerPoint is just an opportunity for us to have something that we need to kind of guide us during our discussion today. But I really do want this to be a discussion, right? We're here to grow. I'm here to grow. People I've just met. And so I don't know what experience they have. They may have some experience that we're going to lean from as well. So again, I hope this to be a learning community. In higher ed, they call it learning community. This could be our cohort, right? If you're not on the Facebook Messenger group, get with me and we'll add to the Facebook Messenger group. And that way, if you have a question or see things you want to share with the people who are here today, we'll have the opportunity to keep this thing going, right? And one of my colleagues, Duana, she works for me at the college. She said, "This ain't gonna be the last one, right? This is just the first one." So yes, if that's what you guys want, it can definitely be an opportunity for us to, get together so often just to see what's going on. All right, so what is flipping? Today's agenda, we're gonna look at house flipping, finding the right property, renovation strategy, financial breakdown, risk, and how to avoid them, and then deal or no deal, right? So who here has, raise your hand, and the people's back there monitoring the chat. If you're in the chat, or if you're online, you can definitely take yourself off mic and, talk to us, okay? So please feel free to do that. You don't have to type in the chat. Who here has flipped a house before? In the process of, currently in the process of, right? Good deal, all right? And this is your first one? Yes, first one, okay? Anybody else have any flipping experience? All right, good deal. Okay, so tell me your experience so far. Where are you at in the process, the experience so far, how you feeling?
So 2 years ago, I bought a hoarder's house for $16,000. The initial plan was to rehab it, rent it out. Things changed. And I would recommend anybody to, like in my situation, I over renovated it just in case I got into a pinch or back into a wall, I could get out of it. And that's what we're finding ourselves. Because I looked at the numbers, it's just better for me to get out ahead than make it a rental. Then it'll take X amount of time to get it back. Just get out now while you can. And then
I think that's a valid point, and that's on the slide, we talk about over renovating, overpricing your market, and knowing that. So that's definitely a pitfall. So at this point, it sounds like you have not a great opinion about flipping. It sounds like you're kind of feeling a little
Well, if I knew it was gonna be a split from the beginning, I would have done things
different.
absolutely, because my mindset was, let's give it another round. And then things changed, and then logistically part into driving there and back and forth and. Just get out the enterprise, and let's focus really and go.
And for me and the people, that's always been our backup plan. We typically know going in, this is a flip or this is a move, right? But we always think, is this a flip that could be a rent? Right? And so, because that mortgage gotta be paid. Once you buy it, it's yours, the mortgage gotta be paid. And you can have an intention of flipping it to sell for maximum profit on the front end, but your backup plan should be. Is it rentable? And is it rentable for the amount of money I'm taking the mortgage out of? Right? So, this,
I don't think we triggered it, we saying, but he kind of giving me a difference in your opinion, like, when you going into it, what are you looking at to say, this should be a rental, or this should be flip?
I think neighborhood plays a part of that for sure. And I think really it's the potential for income or with potential for the after repair value. Right? And so we've had actually our third rental property on Newton Street. After we got finished with it, we had somebody who was potentially looking to buy a house over in that area. And so we considered it was purchased for a rental. And it did rent, but we had somebody who just came and said, hey, we're looking, can we take a look? So it really just depends on the neighborhood. Again, it depends on how much rental income you can receive. And then what are your long-term financial goals? Right, so I think there's several different layers of factors that play into what you do. But at any time, it always changes. Right? Somebody can always look on the door and say, hey, and you never turn out a deal. If the price is right? So, a couple years back, we moved into our third home. And so the rental market got really hot and heavy, and after COVID, things kind of just skyrocketed, prices just skyrocketed. And the house that we're currently living in is almost double. Not quite double, almost double from what we paid for to what it's now valued at. I was just put it on the market that next day. So the people are like, where we going? We'll find somewhere else. We'll find somewhere to go. If somebody want to pay this price, we'll find somewhere to go. Now, she threw a monkey wrench in it because you had somebody who was putting an offer together. But we didn't have nowhere to go. And at the last minute, this is a young full of women, but women can sometimes change your mind. And she really, we might not just work all the time. But at the last minute, the wife decided, okay, I've got one more movement. And I was going to do a temporary move until we got to the final. But she was ready for, okay, if we move it, we have to move it again, right? So we couldn't find out their house, which I think that's a great one. That's the way they made it. And no other house, that's just made up. All right. What is house flipping? It's buying distressed properties below market value. It's renovating to increase value. It's selling for profit, which is why I still get to do it. When we started this journey, it was going to be a joint venture with my brother and his wife and me and my wife. And so we were looking for the right deal, looking for the right deal. Have you ever seen somebody at the edge of the pool and they're just waiting on the right moment to jump in and trying to evaluate all the risks? Who's around, who's gonna see me if this don't turn out right, all the things that we kind of think about before we jump into this. And so our first flip was in the Wicksburg area. The house had just been reduced in price. It was a foreclosure house. And it went from like 100,000 to like 85,000. It was a substantial amount of decrease, which is why it then fell in my search category, because we were looking at a certain price range. Right, we were looking at 100,000 less. It was over 100,000, it was under 100,000. So at that point, then people saw the house. This was right about the time the school was merging, and the scared people wanted to get out of open to get to schools outside. of those things, so they wanna be all together. And so we kept a lot of that. This house is in Vicksburg, it's Vicksburg School District, all those things, right? So Carl's brother, he's even more risk analysis than me. He didn't wanna do it. Called my dad, hey, this is the deal, it's the potential, right? So at that point, I was tired of sitting on the edge of the pool and wanted to jump in. Financially, though, I needed help to do that. So I called somebody who had some money, who had credit power, credit ability, and so that's how we kind of got started into that journey. We paid $75,000 for that house. We sold for 160, I think we listed at 165. Yeah, and I think we put in about 35 into it, and so
You weren't worried about the right of redemption?
at that point, I think we had to wait, we were close to that time point. Now, and that is a great question, right of redemption, does anybody know what that means? Right of redemption is when a house is in foreclosure, the person who the house is foreclosed on has a certain amount of time to come back and get the property. Right, so I think it's a year now, it has been, I think the laws can change. So currently it's a year right of redemption in Alabama for most properties, right? There was a property that we looked at, off of, near the south side of, McDonald's. Right of redemption was the reason why we didn't purchase the house, because there was some legal things going on, and the owner was coming back saying that the foreclosure was not legal. So there was an issue of right of redemption, he was fighting the foreclosure, it was an LLC, it wasn't a person, but it was, business one. And so there was this fight going on whether or not the house could be sold, and so we backed out of the deal because the right of redemption had just started. And and look, you're not gonna know everything going in, right? So be okay with not knowing everything going in. So as we go into this process, our realtor, again, value of a good realtor, she says, you know, because I'm thinking, if I buy a house and I put a roof on it, and I paint the house, and I put the flooring in the house, I put the countertops in the house, I change the vanities, all those things, that you at least gotta give back what I paid for that. No. No, right, that's the same, no. They only got to pay for structural things, so the roof, I will be compensated for. But flooring, the paint, that y'all be a wash, we lost that money. Now, that's assuming they came up with money to purchase the house back. But if they lost in the beginning, what's the likelihood of you getting another loan? Another mortgage, but it's possible. If they won the lottery, you might have passed away, now they got a lump sum of money, they can come back and get it. So there are all those caveats you wanna think, when you're purchasing foreclosures, right of redemption is the question you wanna ask. How much longer is left on it? Absolutely, that's a great point. Thank you for mentioning that. And then I mentioned selling for profit. So we got into this game, my wife didn't really want to do it, but she was like, okay. Yeah, you don't keep talking about it, so might as well, you know, forward, right? And so since we've not lost money, we keep getting to do it. I keep getting to do it, that's not possible. So selling for profit is, of course, the objective. And that's, I would say, my wife's objective. My objective, I love transformation. I love taking this house that you'll see later, this is one of our properties that we did on Oak Street. It took 3 trailers to get all the trash out. Our realtor found needles, drug needles in the front yard of the house. The mother had passed away, the daughter was a junkie, there was no electricity in the house, they were squatting in the house. The toilets were nasty, the shower was nasty. When the guy who does our maintenance put the toilet out in the yard, it rained. You know what dried up, who does when it rain on it? Comes back. Thank God it was outside, right? But, you know, these are the things you're going to see in distressed properties. They're gonna be distressed. That distress looks different. We went into one house, I don't know if we went to the street for the rest. Y'all, the amount of cat hair, a cat, you can smell cat when you walk in, right? But on the fan blades, it was that thick of dust and hair. You remember that house, Kelly? It was off of, Cherokee. Near the adult investigation, that side of Cherokee. It was nasty. Nasty. Our contractor who went into Oak Street had fleas on it. We got flea bites. Right? So these are the kind of things you have to think about. But it was a great deal. Right? We're here to make money. It was a great deal. Right? And so we purchased that property in the 60,000 range. And it was funny, we were on our way to get on the cruise ship, and we're trying to make a deal with Kelly, driving to get on the cruise ship, signing the contract, we got on the boat, we were losing Wi-Fi, because we paying for Wi-Fi on the boat, because it's really expensive to have Wi-Fi. So we were doing this deal on the boat, after 60,000, sold it for 100, you know, 125, 135, 135. But great little house, turned out really cute house. And that's the thing with, when you look at the, you have to be able to see beyond what's there. Right? Now, in what you see, then you have to estimate how much it's gonna cost to get it to where you want it to, what you're seeing. Right? Because sometimes you can see greatness in a property, but because of what it's gonna take to get it there, there's no value for the profit side. Right? So you have to understand when to walk in, you have to have an idea of what things cost, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Being able to see beyond what's in your face. Right? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have two questions. One, for like this house, because you're just talking about it, did you and your wife clean this house out or did you hire people?
So she did not, I did. I can't remember now what it was she was doing that she did not help.
Not a health issue, not.
I think it had just that surgery.
Yeah.
That's what, she just had plastic surgery, and so she couldn't be lifted, all that, right? So I hired two guys to help, and literally it took us all day. 3 grown men, one of which you won't know, you were on to too. You know, I was on but it took 3 grown men, I would say strapping, you know, we're all good health. They were younger, both of them were younger than me. It took us all day to get the trash. And this is just one room. Right? This is the garage addition, one room. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Anything online, people? Are you checking to see?
Second question.
Oh, you got second question. Okay, second question.
Okay, so what told you that you wanted to sell that house and operate it?
The potential, the profit. Yes, because redone, this house should be able to sell at 150, 140, 150, right? It had a nice sized lot. It was, kind of, not in a subdivision, but it was the houses were developed, it was going to, the church on this, the back of the yard had a lake. Although it didn't own, the person wasn't owning the lake, they just could see the lake out the back door. So it had a lot of potential. It was a nice sized lot, cute ranch, Rambler, and like I said, it had the potential to be 150. And we got it at 65, less than 70. Oh, is it? I did bring it, yes. So that's the main reason, yes. Now, again, if it had not have sold, we would have rented it.
So the goal to always sell?
The goal, no.
I just don't get that right.
And it's up to you. You may not want to get into the rental side. Right? Every flipper does not have rental properties. So that's really gonna be up to what your goal is. Right? So for me, for us, at some point, we're gonna retire. And we want residual income. Right? And so the goal is, if all 4 of those properties are paid for by the time we retire, we're looking at going to the mailbox to get cold checks. Right? With no mortgage payment. Cold checks. With nobody knowing, not owing anybody. Cold checks. Right? So that's, for us, we decided to diversify because we can manage both at this point, right? If you're not in the capacity where you can manage landlording, and flipping, that may not be your thing, right? So for us, we have jobs where we can take care of the landlord piece and, down with the flipping. For us, we've only done only 2 at most flips a year. Right, and so the landlord is for every day, theoretically, but the residual income is the rental property side. Right, so this is how rental property works. You buy a house, you front the money, you put the mortgage, but then somebody else pays for the house. At some point it's paid for, and they paid for it. It was just in your name. So now you have a property that's paid for. Now you get the rental payments every month on something that you pay for. That's a win-win, y'all. I mean, right? I mean, you front money, and of course you hold the bag if things go wrong. You had to put ACs in, you had to put a new roof on. So there's that side of it, right? So I'm not saying this is without having to put the credit card out, right? When the purchase things, but long term, even that roof that got put on, I fronted it, but the tenant's paying for it because they're paying for it. They're paying for all this, right? So I think the long term, if you would like to have long term residual income, the rental side is where you want to possibly look at. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
These properties that are below that. So where are you finding it, and are you finding that in today's market, you still need to get you?
Absolutely. So again, having a good filter, right? So let's go back. I would suggest if you have no familiarity with where you're wanting to go and where you're wanting to buy, start there. Right? You gotta figure out where your market is and then start studying the values of those areas. Right? You want to have a great realtor who can bring that information to you, but your realtor is servicing hundreds of clients that she was working with, right? And Kelly sends us properties, right? So sometimes she'll see a property, hey guys, she says one last night, hey, look at this one. Right? But Zillow, Trulia, of course, Zone, XOME.com is like an option site. Auction.com. Williams and Williams Brothers.com, that's another option site. And I have a list that Kelly gave us, I'll share it with you guys. It's a list of different option sites that you can go to. Some that are federally ran by the federal government, like the federal Medicaid, like the HUD, those websites, as well as some of those others. So websites, of course. Now, we have not gotten to the place where we're knocking on doors yet. But we just don't have the time, right? But if you see an empty house in your neighborhood, say, knock on the door. Go to the website and see who owns the house. Maybe reach out to the owner of the house. So that's kind of where a lot of wholesalers, I think, get their hooks from. Because they go door to door knocking. But on my apps, Zillow, Trulia, Home.com, all those places, I get alerts. Every time the house is marketed. Every time the house is marketed, I get alerts. That I go look at immediately. If I'm not going to be there, I can't stop it. Right? But that's because I'm just really kind of in that zone of wanting to see what's out there. So that's the start. Facebook marketplace. You'll find houses on Facebook that are being sold. Sometimes you'll go to the for sale by owner website. For sale by owner has a website. So you'll see those signs you are say for sale by owner. Some of them are listed on the actual website, some are just FDR, right? But there is actual for sale by owner website if you can look at it. Yes.
How did you build a team and we have one team?
And that piece is never changing, right? If you've ever done renovation, you've ever had a handyman, you've ever had someone who's done work for you, trial and error. Right? Trial and error. We have built a good team right now. We have an electrician that we kind of call on things. We have a plumber who we call on the things. And it's been just kind of, a lot of people we work with do side job stuff. So, you know, we may work for Vincent Plumbing. Even though, you know, Vincent Plumbing is, that's high end, that's high dollar, big money plumbing, right? Right, but we don't have that money. But he does work on the side. Right? And so, and we got his name from, I think, my brother, who was it? It's usually, it's just confident people. Our realtor, again, our realtor, she has people that she knows that she uses for her real companies. And so it's really connected.
Word of mouth.
And word of mouth, yeah. We go, I mean, we share with Rico. Rico did some, he was working for another company at the time. And he came to get some house, work at our house. We got his information, that's what he did. He was doing work on the side at the time. Now he's on his own, but at the time he was doing side work. And so we got Rico information that we use all the time, it's great. And so it's really building a network by connecting with people. Honestly, there's no real 1, 2, 3, this is how you do it. It's connecting with people, and word of mouth. Now I was gonna say this had popped in my mind that in doing these kind of ventures, especially in those who are online, maybe, you know, Birmingham may have a different experience, but in those, word of mouth is huge. Those are big, but it's not. Enterprise is big, but it's not. You know, and so, you know, doing good business goes a long way. And so that's kind of how we've done it. And we have a sheet that we can share with you guys. I'll drop that in the Facebook as well, of different people we use and their contact information. We just created that notes, you know, in our homes. And so we have the electrician, we have a plumber, we have the general contractor, but those kind of things. And then the more specific thing you may have actually have to go, you know, hire people to work for. It's but again, when you look at flipping, you're trying to do it as cheap as possible. Right? And so even, I would say the last year or so, we've kind of moved back from our hands on. As far as the things we're doing with our hands. And get more conscious of the energy that we have, how much energy it costs to do versus what it costs to pay somebody else to do it. And so you're always evaluating whether or not, okay, I can paint that, but what does that take me away from? Right? The first, like last year, we were painting all the houses. Right? So I was going to work 85, going on change, putting on paint colors, turning on the lights, and paint the walls. And I have painted whole houses, ceilings, walls, all the trim, everything that paint could attach to. Because paint is the cheapest thing to do, make anything old look pretty. Right? So with that being said, when you look at a kitchen renovation and walk in, and the cabinets may be ugly. They may be from the 1970s. But white paint covers a multitude of sins. Right? Paint covers a lot of sin, y'all. It covers a lot of ugly stuff. Right? And so when you're looking at your budget, you know, you would love, and the key thing, Kelly, is always them against me. Right? When we walk a house, is I have, we need new shaped cabinets, we need quartz countertops, we need gold fixtures, we need, right? And the people's like, you know, those cabinets can stay, we'll paint those. We'll get bush block. Right? So you always have to have somebody who kind of keeps you in balance, because at the end of the day, I know I want transformation. My wife wants money. Right? She does not get happy in the search, in the design, in the transformation. She is happy about closing it. Right there. And that's what balances us. She keeps me in balance. She keeps me from buying things for the house or doing things that would probably not return our investment. Right? Now we have been fighting about this for 7 years, y'all. Since 28, we started doing it in 2018, and we still fuss about these very things. She's not budgeting. Now I'm not budgeting. Because I think there is value in who you're buying, right? If you're looking to sell a house to a, let's say, first time home buyer, or someone in their early late 20s, early 30s. What do they want? They want the HGTV stuff. They want a farmhouse sink, right? They want a black doorknob. Right? They want an outlet that looks like it's new. They don't care that the wiring is from 1950. If the outlet that costs $1 looks new, they're content. Right? And so for me, who wants to sell the house the quickest, because carrying costs eats up your profit. The longer you hold it, the more it costs you, the less you take home. To me, if a regular, your grandmama set costs $150, but a farmhouse set costs $200, it's worth $50 because the people who just watch HGTV saw a farmhouse set. Right? So you kind of have to evaluate where the value is. And you can get the look for not much more than do that. Right? Very, very, very important. And like I said, we still have this debate, right? But you need to have somebody that you can sound off those ideas to, right? All right, finding the right property. Focus on undervalued homes that strong neighborhoods. That is very important. If nobody is living there, guys, and people, if you drive in that neighborhood and the houses don't look well kept, the yards aren't mowed, there's a lot of cars in the neighborhood, on the street, in the house. What's the likelihood of somebody wants to buy in that neighborhood? It's low. Not saying that people don't find those neighborhoods, but in your first venture doing this, I would try to get in neighborhoods that people are trying to get into. Right? Which means it takes time. Right? You can want to flip a house today, but it may be several months of doing research for the right thing that fit the market for you to get into the market. Right? Because the right neighborhood sales. If you look at most Zillow, Trulia descriptions, the neighborhood is going to be the first sentence or second sentence. Right? Family oriented neighborhood, street line neighborhood, it's going to be zoned for this school. The neighborhood always matters. People buy the neighborhood, they live in the house, but they buy the neighborhood. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're living in a neighborhood that people actually are trying to get into. If there's a lot of rental properties in the neighborhood, it's probably not a strong place that you want to sell a house. Not saying you can't, right? Not saying you can't sell a house there, because there are buyers in every market. There are buyers in all price ranges, right? But you just minimize your buying pool when you're going into neighborhoods that are kind of either awakening or just not sure about it. All right? Number 2, avoid major structural issues when possible. It was probably properly scored before we started taking down the wall. We were just kind of nervous about the structure of it, right? We wanted to go in, and this is what I would suggest to those who are getting into the market. You're looking for the cosmetic. Get some experience first before you try to go in and take down walls and move plumbing, all those kind of things, still HGTV, right? HGTV makes it seem like that stuff is real easy. And it's not necessarily hard, because it's just walls, but it's not cheap, right? And once you open up the wall, you now have to deal with what's in the old wall, right? So the house that I showed with all the furniture and trash in it, Oak Street, we couldn't even see y'all. So the garage had been turned into a room that we installed. We couldn't even see the wall. The wall was not even attached to the ground. Right, the wall they put in to protect from the outdoors, termites had eaten the seal plate. And so we get all the trash out, right? And we started looking at the wall, you could move the wall. The wall was moving like it was swaying. The wall was just hanging from the 3 sides. The bottom part is, yeah, right? And we didn't know that on purpose. It wasn't in the world, but it's this thing you have to kind of think about. So we had to tear that wall down, we had to rebuild, put new pressure treated wood in, new siding on the outside. new sheetrock on the inside, unexpected costs. Right, so we're gonna talk about this later, but when you look at your budget, you always wanna have some unexpected costs with it. Right? Yes, sir,
So that property you was talking about, that's like a foreclosure house, right?
it wasn't for here.
Well, I'm thinking of the difference of if I go and say I wanna buy a house and I walk around, people say, oh, that house got good phones or something like that.
What?
But you really don't, but say, we really didn't get the chance to.
Put down a little bit, not low,
It depends, you do, yeah, so that house, we had access to.
mid, middle,
So we were
mid.
able to get into the house and look at it, but there was so much trash and everything that we couldn't really inspect it.
I say even all around.
Individually looking, right? Because in that room, I don't think we went all the way into it, we just kind of.
Yeah.
Peered into it, we didn't know, we don't want to wake up nothing. We didn't know what was in there, and we didn't know what was, snake, we didn't know what was in it. So we just peered in. This space, okay, we didn't, we know. So it depends, now. Some, if you purchase houses on options, so the house that we posed on yesterday was auction house, we got access to it, it was vacant, and that got access to it. The second property that we looked is on South Park, it was occupied. So we did not have access to it. Right? They had good pictures. The value was there based on the size, the location, right? And so we knew. That said, it's gonna be, worth it. Right? But we did not have access to it. And so let's go back to that, let's step on it for a second. If you purchase a house that is occupied, right? And you purchase it, they're in it when you buy it, you have to now give them out. And that can cost you. Right, so just be mindful of that, if you're looking at how the foreclosures that are occupied, that's another layer. That you kind of have to factor in, right? And depending on their situation, the people that you purchased house, South Park, she was a single mom, had 3 or 4 kids. Just kind of got in the bad situation, right? Got behind, this is right before COVID. Right during COVID, COVID hadn't hit as big, we live in that area. She got behind, she couldn't find a place to go, we were out there looking for a place for her to go. At some point, we offered her $1,000, I thought this day would be $1,000. We usually help to get into that place. We also thought that if we give her this, she won't destroy anything once she leaves. Right, so it was an investment in hopefully her, that was part of the deal. You get $1,000, you can get out by this day, but the house has to be in the next. Right, and you've seen TikTok, folks are testing stuff up. They'll put concrete in the toilets, all those kinds of, that stuff really happened. That never happened to us, but those kind of things actually happen.
So you can't just call the police and just say, hey.
And you can start the eviction process. Yes, but it's a process. And so, and it costs. Yeah. So to evict somebody ain't free. You have to pay for the cop to go out there, you have to pay all the court fees. They get cited. There was a case, was that New York, California? That woman's been, and it was a Airbnb. She got into the Airbnb and stayed and would not leave. It was months. That was just something that we recently. Y'all didn't see that? Yeah. She was, people, yeah, so people can get into things. Yeah, so it's possible, yes. You can get somebody, you can get them evicted, but it takes time. It's not I go to the courthouse today, they have to get out by the weekend. There's a court hearing and it's not extended. If they actually show up. So all those kind of things. So it's possible, it's just not usually cheap. Evaluate comps and ARV, which is your active repaired value. Again, comps are usually, the reason you need a good realtor is they can pull comps. Right? Now, I'm sure there may be things out there available to the novice, like ourselves, to go find out value of property, but your realtor can see things on the MLS listing that you'll never be able to see. Right? So they'll be able to pull comps in the area that you're looking at, what's sold recently, what it sold for per square foot, and then that can gauge how much you will be able to attain once you have repaired the property. Right? And at some point, you may not need as many comps, or you might not need as much information walking in, But in your first several, like now, I've been doing it for a little while, I'll say, Kel, look at this. Like, this is only 75,000, this should sell, you know, this is an easy one, because of this neighborhood, this number of square feet, right? But until you kind of know that, you're gonna be relying on other useful things, right? Again, I cannot underestimate the value of the building. Kelly does so much for y'all, for us, for me, for you. She will for y'all too, because you need to find a builder who has a teaching spirit. Someone who does not mind walking you, guiding you through the process, right? And it's a lot of energy. Kelly spends a lot of time with us. Hopefully she sees the value because she is something further with us too. But she gets checked, right? So hopefully she sees the value in the time that she's spending because she's taught us so much about the game. We got into landlord because Kelly kind of said we got to keep it and rent it. And then she gave us the forms to be rental properties. And this is how you do it, right? So you design somebody who is willing to teach you and what they does to get gatekeeper. You know, you find a non-gatekeeper person. Someone who has information and doesn't mind giving it to you. Right? So I can't say that enough. Again, we have a couple people online, Christina's a realtor as well, she's good. And because of what she said behind our back, I know she had to say it, right? So I know she's good. So she's in the chat too. All right. And then lastly is number 4, and I'm gonna try to move this a little bit for the use the 70% rule. Now, I didn't learn about the 70% rule until I was actually putting this workshop together, right? But the 70% rule is your after value, after repair value, times 70%. So let's say you find a house and we think it's worth 200,000. You multiply that by 70% minus your repair costs. You come up with what your maximum purchase price should be. Right? Again, I'll share this PowerPoint with you, so if you're taking notes in the rule, I'll make sure we get all this in. Okay, so
when you first after the repair plan, you said,
it's based on the comps. So whatever the comps show you that a square foot is 4 in that area, is where you're gonna come up with what you expected to sell for. So you win. This is something we learned, I think, on the second purpose. You don't win when you sell the house. Your biggest win is when you purchase the house. Right? The biggest win is when you buy it for 75 when it's worth 150. Right? You don't get the win until after you go through the process. But you win when you purchase it at the very distressed price. And when people who want it HGTV, they can't see past the dirty codes or the ugly paint color or the lack of gold fixtures on the cabinet. That's where you win, right? So you win when you purchase the house the first time at a very low, and I love to say that. I love a discount. I love a good thrift store, right? I love to look like I paid $75 for a shirt. I only paid $5 for it. Right? And so that's how with house flipping, if you do that. You see it's worth 75, but you're only paying 15. That's when you win. Because typically, you're going to then go to a bank, if you're not financing it yourself, you're going to have to prove to the bank as to why they should give you money to purchase it and renovate it based on what it's going to be worth after. Right? So the bank is going to have to be complicit in this way. You can't be the only one. But that's just your money. You're using all your money. Unless that's the case. If you're using other people's money, they're gonna have to see the value as well. Right? They're gonna see the value as well. You're gonna have to kind of prove that. They're gonna at some point do an appraisal, things of that nature. And based on what you say you're gonna do to the house, the condition of the house now, they're gonna come up with they're gonna come up with their own to where they can loan you the money for the house. Right?
So before you build a house, you have mentioned like having an LLC, you mentioned personal money versus business money. So do you need to have like something like an LLC set up if you?
Do not need to. No, again, we just got an LLC last year. So we had to put the house, like I said, on a year, kind of thing. And then last year, we decided to get our LLC. And in doing so, it now opens up business credit. Things that they don't get things out of IRA. So that with liability is now placed into the LLC. So the first, in my personal house now, you can sue the LLC, can't sue Michael and people. Right? So it's something that you definitely want to keep in your things to do how, but it's not necessary to start. Right? Because most of your business credit, when you get to that piece anyway, it's gonna be based on your personal credit. Right?
Michael, Michael, Michael.
Might call me? Yeah.
Yes, this is Shawanda from
Yes,
online.
ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm been trying to listen and not interrupt, but can you repeat what you said? It's a little your voice is just a little for me. I don't know.
So
I can't hear you well on the other side of the room, basically.
Okay, I need to move over here then. I may be a
Um,
little bit closer to the mic up here.
yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna do our best. Put our best and we'll step that just a little bit. All right, so I was saying that an LLC is not required to begin flipping. So we did not get our LLC until last year. And so that was the question as to whether or not an LLC is required to do a flip, and it's not required. At some point, financially, it's gonna be in your best interest, right? And so, again, liability, and then when you look at taxes, I did a video last week on taxes, and my tax guy, I'll go look at that. But yeah, so at some point, it will be in your best benefit to switch to an LLC. And Shawanda, you actually wanted to, so we wanted to mention the LLC and us getting an LLC, so it was under her suggestion that we get that. All right, next, we're looking at renovation strategy. When you walk into a house, there are several things you want to look at. Okay, so when we and Keith pull up to a house, the first thing we're looking at, of course, we look at the neighborhood as we drove in. We're looking at the roof. Does anybody know how much a roof costs to put on? A lot, right? The typical, let's say, 1,200, 1,300 square foot brick ranch, simple roof is gonna run you probably $6,000 to $7,000. Well, your roof is not simple, that's why. Yours is what, 9? They want 9,000? Yeah, 9,000 plus, right? So depending on how many eaves and how all the things that roofs, start looking at roofs, right? If you pull up and it has a lot of angles and a lot of codes and a lot of all that stuff, cha-ching, 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 okay? It adds up. And so the first thing when we drive up to a property, we look at the roof. You look at windows. Are they original from the 1950s? Or are they new? Are they vinyl? Are they aluminum? Right? Those are the first couple things we look at. Before we even get into the house, we're looking at roof and windows. Right? We walk in, of course, we're looking at the layout, but we're looking at the kitchen. The kitchen is where people want the least amount of work to move into dinner. Right? Your kitchen and your bathrooms. Kitchen and the bathroom is where you're going to spend the majority of your pretty money to make it pretty, right? Because when you get ready, you have to think about listing. You start out ugly, but you have to think about what's going to be that listing picture that's going to draw somebody to want to click on this house, right? So if you're not a designer, you don't have to be. My coworker Joanna has she kind of got me into the ChatGPT era, right? So you throw a picture into the free ChatGPT, you can throw a picture in there and tell it to reimaginize this kitchen. You can say, hey, make the cabinets black, make the cabinets white, put wood floor. ChatGPT will kind of give you an idea based on what's there currently. It'll give you an idea of where you could take this kitchen, right? Again, if there are wood cabinets in this house, and even if they're like your mama's kitchen with the scrolly, around the door, y'all know the cabinet I'm talking about, right? The standard 1970s, 80s rancher, right? But they're solid wood. right? Even if the solid wood with the scrolling of the door, if you paint those cabinets, most buyers are gonna be okay with it. Most buyers are gonna be okay with a fresh painted cabinet with a fresh new countertop and some backsplash. It's gonna go a long way. Okay, now, if you have it in your budget and you want to do a new door, you may be purchasing the doors for the wood cabinets. Right? The last resort is having to tear out the cabinets and having to start from scratch. Right, so there's levels to renovation. On TV, they always go, just take them out. And I've seen shows where the homeowners put their kitchen in like 3 years ago. Those cabinets are literally 3 years old. They take them out like they're no good, right? And so in flipping, it's good for TV. It makes great TV, right? But for those of us who are trying to make money, and for many of us, it's residual money or side money, you're throwing your money away as well. Right? So when you look at the kitchen, you want to prioritize cabinets, countertops. All right, and depending on the neighborhood, right? In certain neighborhoods, Formica, laminate countertops will be just fine. In other neighborhoods, you will need to do an upgraded granite or quartz. Right? So it just depends on the neighborhood and how much value does the granite bring versus the Formica or the laminate. And again, this is an argument me and my wife have every house. Because I always want to put in hard surfaces. I always want to put in granite. And she always wants to put in laminate. And again, Kelly usually agrees with her. And she's the expert, right? She sells houses, she shows houses every day, and has been doing it for 20+ years. So she is right. They are right. But sometimes you just want to look pretty. Right? But you can over improve a house. That is a possibility. When you look at bathrooms, a lot of these bathrooms, guys, especially if you have a tub shower that was built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's real tile and it's salvageable, the tiles are not cracked, keep it. Right? They have a thing called reglazing. They can glaze the tub. And we've done it on several projects. We've had pink tile, we've had purple tile, we've had all different color tile, right? And they reglaze it, make it back white again, and it looks like a brand new tub. And honestly, it would cost more to put in that again than putting in a cheap $600 off the shelf at Lowe's. What you have in that house with the tile and the galvanized tub, that is more valuable. To replace it with what it is would cost you more, and it's more valuable than putting in a Formica. What's the little fake stuff they have at those? The tub showers, the surrounds. What's in the house is more valuable. And to reglaze a tub shower costs you about, in our area, in Dothan, costs you about $600 to reglaze it. You put the hardware on it, reglaze it, it looks brand new, right? The construction to tear out towel. Anybody ever picked up a tub, a galvanized tub? You will break your back, right? And you're gonna need 2 big people. That thing is heavy. It is heavy. It is very heavy, and and once you expose that, now you have to deal with what's going on behind that wall. Right? So if there's an issue, now you gotta take care of it. There's termites, now you gotta fix termites. If there's plumbing, now you got. So typically, unless there's visible issues with it, glaze it, make it white, make it pretty, make it fresh, and then put in the money in a new vanity. Right? A new light fixture. Y'all would not believe how a light fixture in a bathroom or a vanity that costs $100 will change the look of a bathroom, right? Focus on return on investment. ROI is return on investment, right? So of course, when you look at an advertisement on Zillow, you're gonna see in the description, new roof, new AC, all new countertops, new backsplash. The things that you're gonna light up are the things where you want to spend your money at, right? Of course, fresh new paint, new flooring. Those are the things that people want to see when they're looking at a new house. Most people want to move in and be ready to live. Right? The typical buyer now is going to move in on the weekend and by Monday, go on back to their regular life. Right? And so the more of the things you can check off that list, for them, the bigger your pool is gonna be. Right? And especially in this day and era, people want convenience. Because anybody in this city can go buy a house that's in the stress. And they can go pick out the counters they want, they can pick out the cabinets they want, they can pick out the floor they want. And not pay me $30,000-$40,000 to it. But in America, people want convenience. So you're taking on the headache of getting the contractor there, making sure the floor is the right. Making sure the plumbing is good, replacing the things. That's what you're earning your money from, is giving a convenience to your buyer. That's basically your job. You're managing a project because most people don't want to pay. Most people, even though they would save by cutting us out, they'd rather pay somebody else to do it. Right? And so that's kind of what we do. We kind of make sure that all the bells and whistles are there, so they can move in and start living their life. The only inconvenience they have to deal with is moving and their lender. Right? The house is not part of the issue. They're just gonna move in and start their life. All right. Stick to your rental budget. Again, this is me. This may not be you. Who here are budgeters? You're budgeters. You know how to stick to a budget. Who here don't live by a budget? Who's out here just kind of just out here floating. Just out here just living your life, right? All right, so in the rental game, budget is key. Sticking to your budget is where you make money. If you don't stick to the budget, you will not make money. Because in every purchase, in every contract that you deal with, there are things that are gonna come up that are gonna increase an inch of what you expected to spend versus what you actually spend. Right? And so you have to be very conscious of a running budget. Lakeitha, which is her, we both have different things we bring to the table. Lakeitha keeps the spreadsheets. Right? So if I go to Lowe's, she wants the receipt. She's listing on a spreadsheet. We have a running tally of every dime that is spent on a renovation. And for every renovation we've done since 2018, she can pull up the spreadsheet. We spent $23 on doorknobs. We spent $15 on this. She has a running tally of everything that's spent and where it was purchased from. That's important to budget the house, to make sure you make money. It's also important when you do your taxes, even with your expenses, so that you want to minimize how much you make. Reducing your tax liability, right? So you gotta keep up. If you're not good with keeping up receipts, there's apps out there that you can get. You can download apps where you kind of take pictures and things of that nature, right? But you need to keep up with receipts and sticking close to your budget. I would suggest before you purchase your first flip, go out to Lowe's, go out to the different places and see what things cost. If you haven't bought a countertop in a while, you can't go into a property and think where that's going to cost. You have no clue what it's going to cost, right? So you need to be looking online, Amazon, going into Lowe's, going into Home Depot, and actually seeing what things cost. Because depending on how much countertop you have, 10 feet versus 25 feet in countertop is a drastic amount of difference in money. Right? What does flooring cost? Does anybody know what flooring costs? Like a typical, let's say, average piece of laminate LVP, which is a lot of people put in the LVP, put in LVP for a house. How much is square foot besides the labor or the material? Oh, he said labor and material. So there's two different costs you got to think about, right? Okay, how much material? Per square foot. Between 2 to 250. Between 2 to 250 a square foot. How much it costs to have it installed? 3. So you're looking at, if you purchasing a 1,200 square foot house, somebody do the math for this. What do the math? You got a pen, do the math. I'm purchasing a 1,200, she said, bad, hold on. You're gonna assume, before you calculate up. Let's say we have a 1,400 square foot house. Right? And we need to purchase flooring. And now we know that on average, let's say we catch a sale. To make the math look easy, it's $250. Right? And let's say you called me and I gave you my guy, and because I gave you my guy, he made you it for $250 a square foot. Now you're at $5. $5 a square foot times 1,400 square foot is how much? $7,000 for flooring. That's not including underlayment. If you have underlayment, we have that'll be. You have to have quarter round. You know what a quarter round is? You don't even know what a quarter round is? What? On the wall right here? This piece right here? That's called quarter round. Okay. And that don't come with the house. It does not come with the house. And they sell it by linear foot. Right? So hopefully your guy who's putting in the flooring, his estimate includes quarter round and put it for quarter. Oh, okay. Quarter round. Oh, I'm from the country, don't be. Quarter round, right? This trim, floor trim. Right? So this is the baseboard. Yeah. And this is quarter round. And for LVP, because it doesn't go all the way underneath the floor, there's usually a gap, a quarter round mask the gap. Give it a finger straight. Right? So for flooring for a 1,400 square foot house, at a minimum, we're talking, we didn't put in taxes, but we're at $7, right? You gotta do quarter round, purchase it, and hopefully the $250 that we charge us includes installing the quarter round. Then you gotta paint the quarter round. It comes prime, you usually gotta paint it. Right? What else? You gotta have the floor that's on the floor removed. Right? That's a lot. If it's tile, that's a lot of ways to remove it. Now tile you can go on top of, right? Laminate, like you come to have a vinyl floor, you put LED on top of it, from tile, you put it on top of it. So depending on what's on the top, the face carpet. Then remove carpet. That's usually gonna be $3,000-$4,000 to remove carpet. And the texture. Whew. You hear that? Did you say it again? About $10,000, possibly. Right? So, of that $10,000, what can you do? I can take the carpet up. I can remove the tack strip. That may be all you can do. And for some people, that seems like, well, I can't do that. But you have to trust me. It's a razor blade. Cut that carpet, roll it up. You're gonna be sweating. That's what they call it, sweat equity. Sweat equity. That's what sweat equity is. It's usually you get real sweaty. Because at this point in the game, you know, this is the crawling before you walk. This is trying to save and cut corners every way you can with the things you can do. Until you to the place where you can walk and actually pay somebody else to do it. Right? So sweat equity is what we're going to be putting in here. And then lastly, find and work with reliable contractors. Again, it's a trial and error, y'all. Like I said, we have people we work with, we have people that we refer to other people. And thankfully, they're really good people. We've been very lucky, very blessed to find some good people who give us good prices and do good work. And they show up when they say they're going to show up. And that's the biggest thing. People will schedule. They will come to the house. They will give you a quote, and then they'll ghost you. It's like, why did you come? You sat down and wrote a quote. You wasted your gas. You wasted your 30 minutes to come up here and see me. And then you go, I don't know what. Like, I'm not begging, chasing you to come back and do the work that you said you want to do. But this is the life we did, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. You know, once you find good people, use them. All right. Any questions before we move on? How are we feeling? Like, there's a level of scare I want you to have, but not to the point where you walk away. Right? You know, the people just want to shoot the scare tactic. Oh, no, I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them. Right? I did not mention this. I didn't even have a paper on the slide. So house we purchased on Hopkinsville Road, didn't notice it, but until we're talking about halfway. And from that moment to this moment, this is the first thing we keep it goes and look for when we walk into a house. The electrical panel. Right, whenever you go into a house, look at the electrical panel. Is it knob and tube? Run, and this is a real good deal. Is it federal Pacific? That brand of electrical boxes, it is hard to sell a house because lenders do not want to take a gamble. That was an old company that has issues with fires and things of that nature. Say it one more time. Federal Pacific. Federal Pacific. If you see that name on an electrical box, you're looking at thousands of dollars just to replace the box. Right? It's not saying that we ride the whole house, but to replace the box, guess how much it costs to replace a box, the electrical panel box. This kind of guess. 5,000? 15? 3? Ooh. Ours cost us 6,000, almost 7 on that panel. Right? So just be mindful, not saying you should walk away all the time, but if you walk in and see it, it's negotiating. It's gonna take us back to the negotiating table. Right? That's the tool that you're gonna use to get that price down, if you wanna tackle it. Right? And if you're gonna tackle it, again, get an estimate. Get several estimates. Whatever you do, get estimates and get more than one. Right, that's another, I was gonna mention that earlier. Make sure you get several estimates, right? But it's a negotiating opportunity if you wanna tackle it. You don't wanna find out after you purchased it and you already have a budget, then now have a $7,000 hiccup. Right? And if you only was gonna make 20,000 from the get-go, and now you're $7,000, now you're at 13,000 possible, right? And we ain't done nothing yet. We haven't actually renovated anything. And we don't know what the market's looking like at that time, but depending on how long it takes, the market shifts. Right? All those kind of things. You said Federal Pacific, and what was that one? Just that one. Okay. Yeah, so the sell is gonna be hard because lenders don't wanna put a mortgage on it, they don't wanna finance it if it has that panel. And insurance companies don't wanna insure the house because of the risk it has. Right? So that only leaves basically cash buyers to buy the property, and there are not a lot of those. There are very few and far between. All right, cash buyer. You don't want to limit your pool to cash buyers, right?
What percent you don't have to put down when you go and purchase it?
Okay,
In a certain percentage?
depending on the bank that you're working with, our bank that we've used in the past is 20%. 20% down. Now, I was gonna get to the financing piece, and that's a slide, but we'll go ahead and kind of touch on it here. You gotta have some money. You gotta have some capital, right? That is just because this is an investment, right? And a bank sees an investment as risk. Right? Which means they want to make sure that you have some skin in the game. You're very rarely, and I'm gonna Kelly, stop me. You're not gonna find 100% financing on a flip house. You're not gonna find 100% financing. Like, the bank is not gonna give you 1% on an investment opportunity. Right? So you're looking at typically 20% of cost and renovation. Right? So if the house costs 100, and we say we're gonna put 30 into it, 20% of 130 is 26,000. Right? Is that math right? 26,000? Even with the calculators, they confuse y'all. I don't know how you you're looking at about $26,000, right? So the math is math, right? Now, people say I share too much, but it helps somebody know. I don't do that, right? So our first rental property, we're on a 15-year mortgage, and it's not paid off. Right, so we went and got our HELOC, home equity line of credit, on that house. Right, so if you have a house, I'm not telling you to do this, right, because it is risk. Right, I'm not telling anybody to go do this, to make sure I'm very clear. If you have a home currently that is valued more than what you owe on it, you could possibly go get a HELOC loan to use in this venture. Right? Which is what we've been using now for the past 3 properties. Last 2 properties, we've used our own financing. When they say we bring cash to the deal, we're bringing our own, that ain't our cash. We're not financing it through the banking for, we have a HELOC loan that's in place, that when we need to go get money, we can go get that money and go purchase this house. Right? Or go purchase the renovation on this house. Right? So that's another opportunity. But typically, if you're doing it, unless you have investors, unless you maybe have people who want to kind of go in together, or being all cash in it, if you're financing it, you're looking at 20% down.
I may be getting a little late for this, but you said that you got one who hold less than what's the house is valued for, right? But is that you got one, okay, let's say you 100 under that. Is it just that 100, or because you owe less than what is the price that then you can, I guess, succeed based on what the project?
Well, it depends on the value of the home that you're trying to get the loan on, okay, and the bank that you go. Right, so let's say the house is worth 200, depending on which type of HELOC you get, and who you get it from, they're gonna give you 80 to 90% of the value of that home.
But that HELOC loan is based on the property that you have.
Yes, based on your property. Yes, yes. Yes. Does that make sense?
Make perfect sense.
Okay. So, again, I'm not a lender. We have used Spring Bank here in Dothan. Some banks don't do the investment side, they don't do the construction loans. So you gotta find a lender or a bank that does what we consider construction loan, because you're gonna go in and actually do some renovating, right? It's not a typical mortgage, it's typically a bank loan. Right?
And so those loans are 15 years, right?
Ours is for, it's a year, yes, but they're for a year.
I'm thinking about
Rental properties are usually, yes, 15 to 20, 25. Yeah. Rental property, they don't usually do a 30. I think 20 is probably the max. I don't think I've ever seen 25. I think 20 is the max I've seen as far as investment properties program. But for flipping, our bank loans are typically for a year. Right? And when you look at your budget, you have to look at the carrying costs. Because the bank gives you $150,000, they're gonna want some money in 30 days. Right? So that has to be evaluated in your budget breakdown, is how much are we paying to carry the house? Typically, it's a interest only type loan. And you're just paying interest. And the goal is, when you go into it, like, is this a 60-day flip? Is this a 6-week flip? Is this a 3-month flip? Right? Because all those numbers will affect your bottom line. Right? If you have to make 3 mortgage payments, so you're gonna have to make 1 payment, right? Because it's gonna take at least normally 30 days. And then you have to list it for sale, which is gonna be another, if you're hopefully, you can maybe sell it in 30 days. Let's say you did such a great job, right? In 30 days, you get it under contract. And then how long does it take to close on a house? 30 to 40 days. So typically, you're looking at least 3 months of carrying costs. That's on the short end. That's on the end. If you do really good work, really quick work, and you get a good buyer, a good contract, and a good lender, right? And of those things, only one of those things you have control in. That's getting the house ready. You have no control of the buyer or the lender, right? You have to figure out what you have control over. Those only thing you have control over is getting a good product. You have no control over the buyer, and you have no control over their lender. Right, and getting under contract, because once you go into contract, people start looking at your house. Especially if they really want to buy, once it goes under contract on the Zillow, they may be keeping their their review, but they're moving on to the next thing. They think that's gonna be a deal, right? So at that point, you're losing potential other buyers because you're under contract, and that contract may go to pot. That's an old country slang for. Y'all know what pot means? Right, it may go away. It may fizzle out. It may be nobody's fault. It just didn't make, right? So then you have to go back on the market. And then there's the speculation of the buyer who has no clue as to why it's back on the market. It could be a failed home inspection, it could be no fault, the lender, there's all kind of things. Now you're having to deal with the receptions of the house coming back on the market, and how long does that affect it staying on the market? We just had to deal with this at Landview, our Landview house. Thankfully, Christina brought the buyer, we had to put that out there. But we were fixing but in the discussion, we were talking about how do we introduce this house back to the market to people who saw it go under contract, right? And now it's been a week or two, and now it's back on the market. I think the same thing when I see a house that's going under the contract and now back on the market. Oh, they must have failed the inspection. Yeah. You automatically, I think most people automatically go to the negative about the house. And it may be the reason, but there are so many other reasons why, right? But now we're having to deal with that perception as well. But now that you come back on a little lower, you come back at the same price, you change the description, and say, I saw this recently. Somebody had the listing that came back on the market, and this asterisk at the bottom said, back on the market due to no fault of the seller. I said, we gotta remember that line. Again, we're learning y'all as we do this as well. So every project we do, we learn a little bit, grow a little bit. Learn a little bit, grow a little bit, right? And you'll do the same thing, hopefully.
So if the house like goes back on market like that, you asked about it, can they have those the details as to why?
Can they, Dr.
If the seller moves, if they can start to sell. The seller has moved to.
Now, to me, if I ask the question and you ain't got nothing to hide, what you hide? So it's in the best interest of the seller to say, this is what the issue was, but they don't have to, right?
I have a question about these finance, because I think that's one of the scariest parts, especially if somebody doesn't have a lot of finance. So like, what are some suggestions for, have a lot of money that you're going to get, like, should you do more of like the real property first, where you can get that long term, a real property that you kind of work to and kind of start there, so you can have, you don't have to have every good put it right on, try to find some great financing, like this thing,
For me, right, and I can't speak for anybody else, and Kelly may have some other insight. Christina, you may have some other insight as well, so feel free to hop off mute. For me, I like it simple. I like it plain. If it don't make sense to me, I don't. Right? And so for me and for us, it was using the conventional route. Right? And so for us, if the bank said we need 20%, they're gonna figure out, so then at that point, we started budgeting, saving our money to get to the place where we could do it. And that may not be everybody's journey, right? You said creative financing. And I don't know those avenues because that's not, like I said, those things don't, you know me pretty well. You know, I like to, if I owe y'all, I'm gonna pay you. I don't want to be moving this, to move that. I don't like all the juggling and the moving the pieces. And that's just too complicated for me. It's just not other people out there who do it. Yes. I would suggest though, you have to be savvy and very smart. And I don't think I'm smart. I'm not smart enough to do.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about once somebody really finds the partner.
Yes, absolutely. Finding partners, I think, is a great way. One of the guys Jay Keys, one of our guys, we shoot off ideas, he has this, he does rental property, he has a partner who does rental properties with. And their goal is to, get a rental property every year. They get distressed properties, they rehab them, they then pull the money out from the new value, and then they go purchase something else. Right? And so they keep rental property, it pays for itself in a sense, but they pull the money, the capital they gained from the improvement of that house, they now use that for their next venture. Right? And that method he found on YouTube. Right? But we learn more about it on YouTube, right? So I think it just depends on what you're comfortable with doing, and your comfort level is important, right? Being comfortable with what you're doing is very important in how far and what you may want to take to get the finance. But viewing people, connecting with people is all very important. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Very important. And your realtor will have those contacts as well. Again, I'm hoping that this becomes a community where we can share those resources with each other. Because me and Christina had this conversation when we were listening, getting ready to list our house about there's enough for everybody out there. There's enough for everybody to eat. There's enough out here for everybody to do it and do well at it, right? And so sharing that information, getting the people who don't mind sharing where they're doing it, how they're doing it, very important. Yeah. All right, financing the film. We've kind of already looked at the financing piece of it a little bit, but we're looking at the purchase price, again, 20%. Right, renovation costs. And we have tried, y'all, we have bare bones this thing, we have been very creative when it comes to flipping a house. And depending on how distressed it is, you know, the more it costs. But I would say on the typical 3-bedroom, 1.5, 2-bath house, you're gonna be looking at probably $30,000 to renovate it. And that's just, you know, that's not even like big, that's not replacing AC and roofs. You may get one of those.
That's the low number.
That's on the low end, right? So we just talked about flooring, and flooring in itself was about $8,000 to $10,000, right? Countertops, if you're looking at granite countertops, you're looking at another $1,500 to $2,000 countertop. Light fixtures, fans. If you're not painting the house, how much does it cost to have a house painted? That's $3 per square foot. $3 square foot.
And that doesn't include the ceiling because that's a separate price when most payments quote you that's just wrong.
That's just wrong.
Ceiling. Different quote.
So even when you're getting your bids for these houses, you need to be very clear of what you're getting. Right? Because a contractor who's been doing it for a long time, who's in the business, knows that ceilings don't count. We ain't talking about ceilings. Unless you say ceilings, he's not thinking ceilings, he's thinking walls. Right? So those are you have to be very elementary when it comes to walking through with a contractor and what you want to have done on that bid. Right? Because you get halfway into the project and realize, well, why has the ceilings been painted? That's not part of the bid. That's called a change order. And ceilings cost $3 a square. Right? So.
Sorry.
Huh?
It's bad because it's so survival, they not ask that.
It's because it's not new. This is what they do with that. And a lot of the jobs are not coming to paint ceilings. I would imagine most painters come in to just paint walls. Now they do paint ceilings, but the ordinary typical person that they're dealing with, if you hire a contractor to come to your house, probably, you're not gonna paint ceilings. You know, they come in to paint walls. So it's not necessarily they're being shysty. It's just that they don't know what you want. It's a la carte. Right? It's a la carte. So if you want walls painted, that's a thing. If you want trim painted, that may be a separate thing. If you want the ceiling painted, that's a whole nother thing. Right? So it's not that they're doing anything intentionally, is that they have an understanding in their business that you pay for what you say you want. And if you didn't say you wanted it,
And every contract is different, some may put the paint, some may not, you just have to ask questions. Well, some,
yes. So our current contracting guy, we do a lot of Yale, is including the paint. We have, as part of this price. But most people that we deal with, it does not include the paint. And paint is not cheap. Paint is not cheap, a 5-gallon bucket of paint. Over $100. If it's good paint. Right, it's gonna cost over $100 for 5 gallons. Right? And if you got cheap paint, it's gonna take a lot to cover up all that cement. And then again, do you buy the cheap paint where it takes 3 coats? Or do you buy the good paint that you maybe can get a primer and a coat and you're good to go and you move it on? When you're looking at hold this property, 3 coats, what it takes to do 3 coats in time versus what it takes to buy a little bit better paint, so you can move quicker, you have to evaluate. Now, if you painting and you painting with your time, then it may be worth it to get the cheaper paint. Because you have more time when you're doing it, not painting somebody else. But, you know, typically, if you're paying somebody to paint, they're not gonna be no cheap paint no way. They're gonna tell you what kind of paint, they're gonna tell you this how much paint costs. But they're not wasting their time, their time is money as well. So they're not putting on 3 coats. Your paint is not putting on 3 coats, all right? Carrying costs, utilities. Taxes, of course, when you close on the house, you have to pay taxes, right? And then insurance. So those have to be paid every month until you close and sell the house. Right? Typically, when you flip a house, you're gonna have to have that contract, go to the city or go to the county, get the water turned on, get the electricity turned on your name. You know, need some legal documents to be taken. Okay? Make sure you keep your contract, your closing documents with you when we go to get those things done, right? Because you can't have your contracts working in the dark. And you know what burns me up? Because I'm cheap, right? I know I'm cheap. You will walk in and the AC is just running. And I'm like, you don't run the AC this much in my house. Why do you need so much AC? You're paying. I'm confused. And I go straight to the thermostat. Let's turn that down a little bit because we got all these windows and doors and you run the AC with the door open. I'm cheap though. I like to that. The only thing is I know, because that's money. That is money. So when I walk in the house, the AC is running, the door's open, and the window. Like, what's going on here? Like, yeah, right? So just keep that in mind, because you're paying utilities for this property on the hopes that it sells in 60 days. Selling costs. Selling, there's a lot of things for free, but you don't sell houses for free. You give a lot of information for free, a lot of heads up, a lot of advice. When it comes to selling houses, that's how she eats. That's how she pays her people, right? So you're looking at agent fees and closing costs, depending on where you're purchasing the house, depending on who your buyer is. A first-time home buyer is not going to have a lot of closing costs. Typically,
closing costs money.
closing costs money to close the house, not the down payment. Not talking about the down payment, they have to pay for the lender. We're talking about what it actually costs to close the house. In Alabama, you have to have an attorney. That is Alabama law, right? You have to have an attorney, and attorneys ain't cheap. They do the title search. They make sure that all the deeds are good. They record all the information with the courthouse, right? So the closing costs, depending on the cost of the house, can range from $2,500 to a whole lot more. Right? So those are things on the front end. When you're sitting up and doing your budget, just make sure that you're factoring in all these things before you say it's a big deal about it. Real estate agent fees are 3 to 6%. 3 to 6%. Right? So if you're selling the house, if you have an agent, when the person buys the house as an agent, you're gonna be paying between 3 and 6% of what that house costs. So if you list it for 200,000, what's 6%? What's 6%? 200,000.
It's 12, right?
$12,000. The realtor fees. On $200,000 house. At max, that's the max, you have to do at max. Right, so these are all the things that we gotta be thinking of, be conscious of when we're seeing a good deal. We have come across so many good deals. Right, you're gonna come across good deals, but they don't necessarily make financial sense to purchase. Right, it makes a lot of sense for somebody who's looking for a house at a good price to get it, because they're gonna walk in with some equity. They can do a little flooring, a little paint, it's gonna be good for them. But because you have a agent fees, because you have carrying costs, because you have taxes, because you have. Right, it's not a good deal for you as a flipper. It may be a great deal as a consumer, but not a great deal as a flipper. Right, and so that's where you have to kind of distinguish whether or not it's a good deal or it's a deal that I need to be looking at further into. All right?
I got a thought.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you were saying, and I'm going back a little bit in the schedule. Like a construction loan, right? The bank is appraising it, let's say it whatever, you gonna get it for 60,000, so bank said this, it could turn into 120,000. Are you giving them more or something saying, hey, I wanna turn this kitchen and make it look like this, they're convincing them of this, or they just saying based off of their own?
No, so when I go to the bank, I give them a list of what we're going to do and how much it's gonna cost to do. And based on that bottom line, let's say it's $30,000 for the project. If the appraiser then looks at the current value of the home, based on the renovation that you say you want to do, and what's going on in the neighborhood, they now say this, if you do what you say you're gonna do, and spend this amount of money, we're gonna say it's gonna be worth this amount of money. And that's what the bank is gonna do.
So we can the house with all the stuff everywhere, we can look at the house, right, by the time we go to the bank. Cause we have to, I'm just imagining in my head, I need to look at it and make my list. So I can try to make it to where all my renovation costs can end up being wrong.
Correct, yes, yes,
Okay.
and it's a guesstimate,
Yeah.
right, it's all what we expect to do.
But when you push that wall, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not expecting the wall to move back,
Yeah.
right, and so,
And that deal is already done, you already got the money. So
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, so we have the money now, we just have to make good adjustments. So. I'm all about, like I said, I'm all about buying and getting a deal. So that property, we were changing, renovating that space where the wall was at, and we were going to the barn door. Because it was going from the main house into the new space. Laundry and the laundry. And so we wanted to do a barn door. I thought aesthetically looking in, walking into the house where you have a lot of break space, a nice barn door with a little color would kind of give a good impression. The people went online on Facebook, somebody was taking out a barn door in their house, and it was over $1,000 barn. It was a nice barn door. And we paid like $100 for that barn door. And it was still on Home Depot for over $1,000. They just didn't like it anymore. Right? Southeast Liquidations here in town. They have, they get stuff from like Home Depot, they get flooring, they sell flooring now for $1.69 a square foot. Nothing look, they're on Facebook, right? The vanity that we just purchased was $20. A vanity, a typical 30-inch vanity at Home Depot Lowe's is gonna cost you over $250, $300. We paid $20 for it. Right, so you gotta be creative and finding things as cheap as possible. You want good, but you don't want retail value. Right, we want retail look, we want retail experience, but we want discounted low prices. Right, so it's like I said, Southeast Liquidation, when Lowe's has sales on, you wanna go and look, see what's going on there. They have the things that kind of have been returned to the store. That sold only cost $1,500, now that sold is $700. Those kind of deals, that's where you're gonna be able to make that money, and then when you have the unexpected wall moving, now you have a little cushion. Because you may have budgeted $300 for a vanity, but you caught a sale and got a vanity for $100. That's $200 in savings. Now we can do that. We can allocate that $200 to go somewhere else.
So
Right?
when you make the list for the bank, you want the retail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For the bank, you wanna put retail value, yeah. And honestly, the bank will tell you, cushion it. Cushion it. Because you're gonna probably need it. So they want you to, it's an investment for them too, right? You foreclosing on it, don't help the bank. So they want to see this project get done, they can get their money too. So we're all in this to win. And so typically, they're gonna tell you to, the first time we did that list, you said you don't wanna add a little bit more? And we went back and added a little bit more. Just in case. Now, the goal is not to spend it all. The goal is to have access to it if we need to. Right. So the goal is for it to be there if we need it, but not to necessarily need it. All right. So next.
So what's the most y'all have spent on the renovation? You want to try to keep it under 30 or? It's been more than that.
I would say the most we've spent 40, maybe 45. Maybe 50.
Less than 50.
Less than 50. Comfortably less than 50. It was in that 40 to 45 range, I think. But depending on the house,
You have no choice.
well, sometimes you got no choice, but if the value is, again, you win on the front end. When you buy it the first time, if it's worth. So for example, we're getting ready to close on Landview. And we've got new Star Street looking for like a store house. Landview's out of its price range. But Kelly mentioned that we were closing on in the morning. So he does some handiwork. Right? So he can do some work himself. Kelly's gonna show that property to him as it is. Which means we bought it. She's gonna show it. And if we're showing you, what's that mean? In your mind, if I'm showing a house that I've been renovated, what's that mean?
It's less handyman work he has to do.
What does the either want? The value, as in, just the house itself is worth more in the disrepair. As it sits now, we pay less than what it's worth even in disrepair. Right? So we could possibly, now I love transformation, so let's look at that part. But if we clear a certain number, we're going to make money on just buying it and selling it without even renovating. Because the value is already there. Between the land and the bricks, even with the ugliness, all the ugliness, if you look past all the ugliness, there is value there. Right? And so we could possibly make thousands of dollars because that is how much room is in the purchase. Okay?
Hold on, I'm sorry, I don't want to. Let's say I own my house and then, and I rent it out. Can I still get that HELOC loan on that house? If I send it right there?
Yes.
Okay. Can I still get a loan on that? Okay.
It's not based on whether or not you live in it or don't live in it, it's based on what the value is. And what the bank sees as value. So that property that we're talking, that we have the HELOC on is on the property. Yeah. All right, where we at on time? Oh gosh, man. 9 minutes, what? Y'all don't let me sit here talking. All right, of course, we've talked about risk. Risk is the biggest factor of doing this. And so the more you know, the more you know. And if I don't stress anything else, before you jump into doing this, learn as much as you can. There's some things you won't run into, you're gonna think of it, right? But the more you know about the area you're gonna invest in, the more you know about the value of homes in that area, the more you know about neighborhoods and what you want to move. The more you know about what pouring costs, the more you know about. Right, all those things. That's how you mitigate risk, that's how you reduce the risk, it's by your knowledge. Right, the more you know. Understanding repair costs, market shifts. Right, a house that may sell in Top Spring it's January, so it's tax season. Right, that means tax returns are coming. That's a whole boatload of people now can live for houses in a certain demographic. Right? You're living in a house in, let's say, October and putting it on the market in December. The market's not as moving as much in December. You're talking about Thanksgiving, you're talking about Christmas, people usually want to up and down. And so purchasing your flip and putting your flip on the market, timing is everything, right?
Just give you the best time, if you can.
Yeah, the best time.
We have a property for ready possibly. Our office doesn't matter. I've been in this 20 years. And if you can have a property ready, whether it's your own personal property or rental property or that holdings, I mean, the same as we can now that our food away. Spring is typically our best month.
So March, April,
March, April.
March, April.
Favorite factors there, but yes, March, April.
So just keep that in mind, as far as this.
There's never a bad time for your house on Monday.
Yeah, never a bad time.
Never a bad time.
Yeah, never a bad time. Never a bad time. So we put land view on December.
Yeah.
But we had a contract on Thursday, right? So it's never a bad time if your product's good. And you got some love on your side, you're gonna print a whole lot. Never a bad time, right? All right, contractor delays or issues. Again, once you open that wall up, or once you actually move the trash out the house, you never know what's underneath what's there, right? You may take up the floor and realize there's a huge crack in the foundation. Right? The house that we had on Bracewell, we had issues with the foundation, we had issues with the attic space. So we knew the foundation issue was there, so we kind of walked in and knowing that was there. But then we had to remove all the sheetrock and ceiling in the kitchen, turned out beautiful. But it was added expense, and it was delayed on time, right? So some things you're not gonna know until you actually need to think of it, but. Walk with popular people where they do. Right? Call me. When people walk around property, listen, we do this for fun. We go look at properties for fun. We sneak in houses and look in property, look through windows and see what's going on. I mean, this is what we do for fun. Literally in our free time, she'll say, you wanna look at houses? Yeah, we go look at houses. And we'll just go right around the neighborhood and look. And we'll see what's being renovated. Doors open, oh, we going in. We going in now. You know, we are going to look at the house, right? So that's what we do for fun. So if you need some help looking at a property, if you need another pair of eyes, we would be willing to come together to do that for sure. Over improving the final project, we mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'm going to lean toward over improvement. That's my tendency. Right? And I know that about myself. So having balance, someone who can kind of keep things in balance, because I really want to give the best. I really not say the other people don't want that, but to sell it and to make money is not necessarily always required. Or it's not always required to sell a house, right? And so just keeping that in mind, you're not going to be living in it. This is not your house. It does say a lot about you as far as building your brand. Right? But it's not personalized. Again, we can talk about this as far as the design of the house, but if you really want to, I would say go basic, but when you look at colors, countertops, you're not looking for extravagant off the wall kind of stuff. In most markets, there are some markets like in California, New York, where you can do those kind of poppy things and you'll sell it, but you have that thing more fire. But in a typical Alabama, southern traditional towns, people don't want.
Yeah, well,
I hate to say generic, That sounds boring, I don't think I'd be bored. But you want things that are gonna appeal to the masses, that's a better way of saying it. You want things that are gonna appeal to a lot of people, right? And blue walls is not gonna appeal to everybody.
All
So to get as many buyers as possible, you may not do all white, but you're gonna do this very neutral. So, a cream, a light gray, white, we're sticking those kind of things. You're not gonna do green walls everywhere, because most people not gonna, they're gonna feel that that's a product they have to come in and do. Right? So you're gonna be more builder grade, simplistic, and appeal to most people. All right? Always perform due diligence and build in buffers. Again, as far as time, after the first project, I said this, and it has kind of stuck. It's gonna cost more than you think, and it's gonna take longer than you think. Okay. That's just how this is. Because there's so many other factors into it. There's so many other people you're gonna be dependent on. That means that goes from Lowe's, delivering the appliances, when they say they're gonna deliver, to the contractor showing up when he says he's gonna show up, to not finding anything that's not in the scope of work. There are a lot of variables that can change the timeline. All right, so I had built in this game. If we have time, we'll do this real quick. This is deal or no deal. All right, for my online folks, if y'all would, I'm gonna take y'all on, put y'all on mute, try to put you on mute. Y'all discuss, okay, after you get instructions, and then if you guys will kind of discuss together, if you guys kind of discuss together, kind of get a little. Are we buying this house or not? We have a purchase property of $115,000. Our ARV is $199,000. That's what we're expecting it to be. The renovation cost, we're estimating $40,000. Carrying cost for the 36 months at $4,000. And then selling costs, we're gonna put in $10,000 for selling costs. Get together, let's take 2-3 minutes. And are we purchasing this home? And I'll give you a little backstory. The home is in a well-established neighborhood. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 2-car garage, quiet street. Good school district, right? All that, all right? Get together and see what you think. I think I'll take on it as something that we have
I got let it work, but I thought, oh, carrying costs of the renovation.
But.
And listen, I'm here for you.
Like you said, the government signs, but I'm still with mom. Cause I never gonna get it out. All I do is send people out to do something.
Well, the next thing,
Y'all get everything on English.
All right. Where are we at? Group one, we're gonna call y'all group one. Are we making a deal or walking away? No deal?
yeah, my district is gonna be like. He said, but if you can make 25,000, somebody told you, because I don't think we'll make 25,000, so I'm gonna take 25,000. That's yeah.
You might make me think. I mean, you know, I ain't tell you what to do, I'm just saying.
Well, the rationale.
He said if you could get a check today, 25,000 basically, somebody will get a check 25,000. Which is what the estimated.
Cause we just took
Just
the
find about how
ARP.
this plan with the number.
Yeah, and we just subtracted everything except for, and then we subtracted an extra 5,000, just because you said, you know, it may cost more money, so we subtracted the extra 5,000. And ended up with 25,000, and then he said, you know, you could sign something and say, you know, you can make this amount of money, you know, would you take it?
Because to me, let's go ahead, we'll talk next, we'll talk that, we say, no deal. You're walking away, you'll be $25,000 on the table. That's why it's gonna be.
Even if trying to make the 25,000, I still got closing costs on this guy, and I still gotta pay 2 agents. So 2 agents.
No, you got
We
the.
subtracted.
Or you guys saying 5 for 115 and then find some Joe Blow that's gonna give you, what, 144?
No, we just took all the numbers that he gave us, so we went from the 199,000, and we subtracted all the rest of the numbers, and then we subtracted an extra 5,000, because he said it could cost more than, you know, what the numbers that we had, and that's what we got 25 from.
How long did it take you to sell it?
That was in the detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was in the details, right? But let's ask that question, because these are things that we literally walk through every time we look at a house. Like, when I started doing this, the goal was to not lose money. Right? And so I'm never gonna walk in with a $5,000 or $10,000 profit. And that's really too close to come, right? But then you have to kind of figure out where your comfort level is. Because for the typical person, an extra, let's say things went south and we didn't make 25, and we made 15. They're like gonna walk away and not take $15,000. You know what I'm saying? So your level of comfort is gonna be how much risk are you willing to take is really how you walk into this game, right? And so if the goal is 25, but the 15,000 is on top of the 5, there's another 10,000 that we uncovered or sat on the market for 6 months or more. We had to carry it. Right? So those are all kind of things you have to look at, right? And I think after you have more experience, the more experience you have, the more likely you would take this deal. Right? And your first time, totally understand, well, that's still too close. But where I'm at now, $25,000 profit. Because I get to keep playing the game. As long as I don't lose money.
Right, when you be really pushing this, we don't know. With that ARB, times that times 70%. We got 139, what's the number, 130, 139,000, okay, past that 40,000 inflation, you are over the number, so it's automatically just looking at numbers, you know, it's not make sense.
And
so
based on the
me-
70% rule, you are.
Yes, and so I would not touch it.
Yes.
And then, oh, go ahead. But no, that's, and then next April 15th, I got the next thing. The gains, which is, another 20, so whatever tax bracket. So it goes right.
Yes, those are all absolutely, absolutely.
And then you gotta weigh in, how much is your time for? So, such as Michael and the Shipper both work on the home, so you're looking at your profit margin, let's just say it is 25,000. So then you're gonna divide your 25,000 divided by 2 of them. That's really what, so then you're saying, okay, well, Michael's time in this project is worth 12,500. And then it's gonna take them 3 months. So is his time worth $12,500? Could he make $12,500 in 3 months between his regular job or?
No, and she cannot.
You know, or online tutoring or anything in 3 months' time. And so, and Makita was her, because she did 17,000 in 3 months for $12,500. It's not painting walls and, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
The DoorDash, you put a lot of gas.
Yeah.
A lot of miles in your
So,
car.
I'm just saying,
You might pay $4,000, but baby, you ain't sleep the whole lot.
So then you have to put, how many people is gonna get that all the money? How many units are gonna get in that?
Yeah, so if you're having partners, or, you're having a lot of people that are pulling out that pot, that conversation changes the whole lot. Absolutely. Right, so, again, somebody who's not done this before, may say, that's not enough cushion for my first one. It don't go good for your first and your last one, right? And if you're gonna go get a HELOC on your house, now you're making, so there's a lot of factors that go into making the deal, which is the scary part, right? There is some risk. Again, mitigating risk, talking to, having a good realtor, having other people experience and bringing that off the table is gonna help mitigate the risk. Not gonna eliminate it, right? But it's gonna help mitigate some of those issues and make you feel more comfortable walking into a deal, right? You never wanna walk into a deal not having peace about it. That's the way I kind of live my life. I gotta have a peace about it. If I don't have peace, if it's kind of, for me, it's usually that I gotta have confidence and peace about this is a big deal. Again, I have a backup plan. It's gonna be a real property sale. So there are things I put in my mind, put in place, so where it makes sense to me.
Okay, so maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but if you get to pay like house insurance, you don't spend nothing on your own property, as long as you don't go like, let's say it's 0, I'm kind of glad you didn't break even. Of course, it's kind of a waste of time, but like you said, you playing the game and you with everybody around you kind of learn a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't cost you nothing. It's kind of a little bit, right? You just play with house money.
That's how I saw it. And everybody may not want to take that risk, but that's how I saw it. The first group that we did, again, the goal was not to lose money. We didn't have big aspirations of a $20,000 check. The goal was not to lose money. And so that's kind of how we walked in. Now, that might have been foolish. So I'll take care of the fools, but about the fools, you take care of them, right? And so that maybe what it was. But that was where, because, like I mentioned, we learn every time we do something. Right? And so we have learned from flip 1 to now. We're still learning. Well, it's layers. But at a minimum, we would have had the experience, we would have had the courage, we would have had all those things that you can't necessarily put a price on to keep doing it. So for us, that was the barrier. When we lose money, we don't have enough money around here, we lose none of it. That's kind of how my mentality works.
I'm not following them. Yeah. When I go back to the bank, let's say when I go back to the bank and I do another one, are they, of course, our relationship got better. I can't say, me and your relationship, we people to people, person to bank, it's do it gradually grow a little like, hey, y'all might give me a little bit more. I did it once, I did it twice, I did it 3 times.
Typically not. That's not been our experience.
It's different.
It's business.
Yeah. I think it's about, yeah, I was just about
3 times, you do know what we.
No, now, the contractor who you use 3 times, look at that, he gonna be your deal, right? But the bank, they stand on business, 10 toes down every time. Your requirements, and we have been using them for 7 years, and every time we go, they want the same document, they want a financial statement and a tax return. It's like they don't even know this. It's like they don't even know this. They want a financial, personal statement, finances, and a tax return. Every year. And it's a year for them, it's every year that you want to do some money about those documents. And Gio knows me. And if I saw Gio at Walmart, I'm saying, hey, Gio. But on Monday at the bank, Gio want them statements. Right? Yeah. All right. I think that was it. What did you not hear? Did you have a question that you had in mind? You have something that you were thinking about that you did not hear, that we didn't cover? Hopefully, I always consider a good workshop, a good experience is when you walk over no question that you can't do. It should be really cloudy in your head properly, but there's so many things swirling. Right? We talk about a lot of things, at some point it doesn't want to settle. And you're gonna try to put some things together. But, did you have something in mind before you got to do what you had a question about? That you still remember, that we didn't cover? Of course, again, we have a messaging group on Facebook, so you can always drop questions in there. We have my information that's gonna be up here next. We're on Facebook on Flipping Dothan LLC. My email address is michaelbharrison@icloud.com. And then my cell number is 850-209-7737. So you can always reach out and call us. Kelly's gonna give you a card. Christina, did you drop your information in the, she did in the chat? Good deal, good deal.
I did. And Michael, could I say something real quick?
Yes, ma'am. Hold on a second. Let me make sure the volume's up. For some reason I can barely hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Christina D. Jackson with Brinston Avenue Real Estate here in Dothan. I just wanted to tell Lakeitha and Michael how extremely, extremely proud of you I am for doing this venture. The hearts of these two individuals are unmatched. And I also think that you all have the sweetest real estate broker beside you. Kelly has been amazing to work with. Hey, Kelly, back in the back. I see you back there. Um, they are just amazing, and we are so thankful. I appreciate you all's patience. I appreciate the passion that you have for helping the community, for helping Dothan, the Wiregrass area as a whole. And I just wanted to say thank you all. And I am so, 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 so proud of you all. We go all the way back to 2016, 2017, where we were neighbors. We both were flipping our houses at the same time. We both moved on. We were both flipping with our own funds. So it is amazing to see you all here. And I just want to tell everyone the heart that you hear, the passion that you see is exactly what it really is. I've known them before they started. Great people, and you all have an amazing realtor beside you, and I'm just so proud of all of you. I just pulled up to help one of my agents, so I'm gonna have to jump off, but I did want to let you all know that this is not fluff. This is not fluff. So the next time you all do this, make sure that you bring a friend and bring a friend and bring a friend. And you all reach out to Kelly or myself if you need our services. We do not charge for consultations. You can call and ask us anything that you need to ask. It is an amazing ideal to have a great agent on your side because you just never know what you'll run into. And a lot of things you think you can do on your own and you're cutting costs by not having an agent actually has a completely different counter effect. So having a great agent is very, very important. And I do think that you all have an amazing person by your side. And thank you so much for the kind words that you said about me. I do this from the heart too. So it is great to be linked to people who have the same passion. Thank you all so much. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, any other questions? So Christina, like I said, she was our neighbor, y'all, and she started real estate. I think in 2018, 2017, and got her license, now she owns her own real estate.
Yeah, great that.
So. Awesome. So thankful to have you. Like I said, she's working on the last deal that we had on our last property, so it's been we've known each other, but we've actually our first time working together, so it's been wonderful working. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Will there be another? More.
We're trying to figure out how we move on from here. And so, yeah, the short answer is yes. Don't know the format, that kind of thing, Kelly had mentioned maybe we want to get some churches. If we stick with this core group, we do it at our house, you know what I'm saying? So we can just kind of see how we move forward, but yes, we want to. Want to come back and discuss something. We definitely want to. And the community, yes, absolutely. A field trip. Next probably will be viewing of the property that we're gonna look at the house.
Or somebody's finance.
Well, I don't know that topic.
Oh, we can go to Henry Moore, y'all, it's pretty good, but it's not terrible.
No, it's not.
We've seen worse, but yeah, we make it, y'all, at some point, once we get through that process, if y'all wanna come look at the property, y'all can kind of see it before. And when we get done with it, kind of come back and see it afterwards. We can do that.
Down the wall there.
Yeah, so we can definitely do that for sure. I was gonna mention this, I know we're out of time, but so if you look at these auction sites, I went to my first live auction. Wednesday, Thursday, I think. Auction.com had a live in-person auction on courthouse sales. And so I went to that for the first time and it was an experience. And so every in-person, it seems like the live and in person, they all have requirements, right? So on the online bids, usually it's open for like a 2-day, 3-day window. And you'll see the bids and kind of go up in this set increments. So it's a 5,000 to 10,000, they're turning bid. Still don't know where these singles come from, kind of how it goes. The in-person bid was, the instructions said you had to have a $5,000 earnest deposit that day. And then the remaining funds had to be provided the next, 24 hours to purchase the whole. Capable, kind of thing, which is the first time we had seen that. Typically, you can go bank loan the auctions, but this one was different. And so now the auctioneer said those auctions now are set by the closing attorney who is dealing with the foreclosure. They set parameters for those auctions. So there's an auction, I think this week on Mustang Drive, which is in Fuller Country. But it says that all the funds have to be provided in a cashier's check that day. I don't know how you build a property and have a cashier's check at the same time. Unless you bring your banker with you, I guess. But that's the instruction that says you have to have the cash at the cashier's check. So when you look at the online purchases, especially in person, read the small print and make sure that you're aware of all the requirements as far as conversions.
Can you observe one though?
Absolutely, that's not, well, I went to kind of bid.
Yeah.
He kind of, but I ended up getting a third reason. Well, and this is what happened. So the whole time it's been on auction.com, it said the opening bid was $87,000. At some point, that morning, it changed from 87,000 to 172,000. To where nobody knew that except for like one person who came. Right? So it went from 87, which I could probably bid on, to 172 started off. The starting bid was 172. And so the guy, she opens it up, she reads the description, they read the whole parcel number, blah, 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 blah. It takes more time to read the description of the property than it does to actually auction the property. But she reads it, she opens it up, and the guy who knew about the change opened the bid up at 174, and like $300 more. And we all looked around like, what is you doing? Like, why are you knowing the price of it? But he had got the notice that it had changed. And it said on the website, once it's cleared to foreclose, it could change. But I had just never seen it do that before. So this was my first time going to live auction. So it went from 87 to 170 something. But in doing so, I got the person's information. He is out of Ozark. He has over 100 properties in Ozark. He does it full time. He has a real estate person in-house, he has contractors in-house. He works in 15 different counties, from Florida to Montgomery. I mean, he is a shark, a whale, when it comes to house building. And he's still at 170-something thousand, solid value.
When it comes to auctions, no, they're all different. So some of them you can preview and some of them there's no access. So they're all different.
Yeah.
Every house is going to be different, such as the last two that they purchased, they were an online and we were able to get in. Because I was able to get in contact the agent, get a code, go in and preview. So some of them are able to preview. Some of them.
It's like $5,000, I guess.
Binder.
But I can, as long as I got that, I can go in, right?
No,
No,
no.
no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like,
Okay.
if it's on the courthouse steps, that's just a binder saying that you're gonna be good for it. But no, he was not able to, that's why I said every property is going to be different.
We need to look at the property, we can look through the window.
As is, so whatever it is,
He's right.
Yeah, but such as that particular property, just to give you an instance, I'm not telling you how to go out and do this. We went out to the property because we wanted to see, is it physically there? I mean, is the roof blown off? I mean, we did not have a code, but the fence was torn, half of it was torn away. So I was able to climb through the fence, because it was private fence, and look around and look in the windows and see, okay, the walls are not damaged, the kitchen appliances are there. Does it look halfway decent on the inside? But, because they had a padlock on the gate. So, I mean, because a preservation company comes out and they will change all the locks on the house, padlock the fence. They are preserving the house for the auction. And, so I was able to go and just take a peek in the windows and say, you know what, it's gonna be an okay purchase. You're not gonna have to,
And that's just based on, like you said, what you can see,
yeah,
right? But, pull it up, we saw the roof.
Yeah.
We saw the windows, there's a lot of things we can see visually on the outside, we can also say, we saw the fence, that's gonna need repair. So
Yes.
there were calculations that we were making even not getting into the property. And then once we saw that the house was not in disarray or distressed very much, to the point of not holes in the wall, things of that nature, then it was, okay, this is a good safe, most likely this person took care of the house, right? Now, it doesn't mean that there's no concrete in the toilet, because we can't see
No.
it, but the likelihood that not being there, kind of stuff. But the property description did not say it had a pool, this house had a pool.
well, and a lot of that, you're gonna have to make a best judgment call, such as when I looked in the window to the kitchen, they left all the kitchen appliances. So if someone is going to destroy the property, such as putting concrete in the toilet, they're going to destroy the home, they're gonna take the appliances, they're gonna take down the light fixtures. They are really they're going to destroy this house. They're really going to, I mean, we have seen walls, bashed in, everything. And, so, so think about it. If you're really gonna do damage to a home, they're gonna take what they can
And
get.
then sometimes the house is occupied. So,
Mhm.
if in a situation where we were with, she let us come in, we talked to her kind of thing, but everybody would be. And the websites will say, do not disturb occupants. We don't always listen what you tell us.
Well, you can look by a couple of times.
Yeah.
And see, okay, yeah, they're there, no, they're not.
Right.
And that's what they encountered on one of theirs that they bought.
And she just happened to be there one day, and
Yes.
we had driven by a couple times, went to the house, looked at it, saw that the stuff was still in, but we didn't know if they were still in. And so at some point, we actually saw a car there, and so we made contact and kind of, started negotiating what the exit's gonna look like. Because we don't, and you're living in it.
Or worst case scenario, you can contact the utility company. They're not gonna tell you a lot of information, but they can say, yes, the power is still on, or no, it's not. So that's always the 100%, contact the utility company and they will tell you.
So it's a foreclosure, some of those you can finance, and some of them you have to pay cash for, right?
Yes.
Yes.
What I've noticed, I know guys like auctions, they think they get a super better deal, but from my experience, if it doesn't fetch an offer at the courthouse sale, they call us, I know at least in our office, if it doesn't fetch an offer at the auction, the guys who did the foreclosure, which is the asset managers, they contact the local real estate office and say attempt to move. So where the guy ran it up from 80 to something like that, he could have said, screw it, if it doesn't fetch an offer, we're gonna get it at a cheaper price once it goes to a real estate office anyway, so I don't.
And I guess,
It's not gonna go for a cheaper price going through a realtor though.
You sure about that?
I've been in 24 years, because here's why. Because, and I say that because, on top of the price of the house, because then you're gonna have the attorney's fees. And then you're gonna have the realtor fees. So, because they're gonna recoup all of that. And because they're going to get, it's called a market analysis, they're gonna get 3 of those. So I'm gonna get one, they're gonna get probably Christina, they're gonna get 3 other realtors to come in and give them a market analysis. So we're gonna say what the home is worth. So, and then they're gonna take an average of those. And then they're gonna say, okay, well, we've got carrying cost, we've got an attorney's fee, and we've got a preservation cost. So if somebody's got a preservation cost is, it's called mineralization, meaning trading on the wood out of the house. Keeping the grass cut, anything, changing the lots. So all of that adds up. So anything that it costs for them to keep that house on their books, so they're not going to take a loss.
We've been moving 30 foreclosures in our office for the past 5 years.
So that's why I said they're, what we have seen, they're gonna try to recoup that money.
they're trying to lose as little as possible.
Yes.
Any more questions? This is kind of stuff I can, like, in my office, I wrote to college, but we talk about this kind of stuff all the time in office, because I can talk about it all day. But I know other things on this schedule today. Any other pressing question? We'll put that, pressing question. I gotta know this before I leave. You got a question? All right, if you're not following us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. Again, I will add you guys to the messenger group. Because the event page will probably go away after today, but we have the messenger group that should be in the system. But follow us on Facebook, Living Dothan LLC. Again, you have my information. I will send these, I will put the PowerPoint slide in the messenger group. Or if you email me, I will email it to you. Okay. And then I'm gonna also send the list of websites that Kelly uses to go look at different places, different auction sites to go look out, send that as well. And then we'll also put in this is our contract to them.
Yeah.
But I wanna show
So I would recommend just going out there and looking at properties, it's probably less than 75,000. Because sometimes you're gonna just find properties that are, it's not updated, older people, that they're just trying, families trying to get rid of their home, they passed away, that sort of thing. And, or that it was a rental at one time, and the seller doesn't want to rent it out anymore, you may can come along with some properties that way.
So I would make sure that when you take your Zillow, you're looking at houses that are actually in your reach. Under 75, under 100, because 75 plus the 35 to go into that's 150. So you gotta know your price point, and then kind of look at that market area as far as you're looking for houses. On your Zillows, for 2 years.
What's the cheapest you'll go on the property?
Ooh, I ain't never met that price yet. Well,
And the reason I say that, because I'm not trying to get personal, but we're picking them up for 16, 25.
I was stressing those.
I think to me,
No,
at
it's great.
$16, like you can see the floor. In my mind, I'm not, but to me, a $16,000 house ain't much there. That's how much a quarter acre lot costs, about $10,000. So to me, 16 is not a lot of house, just based on what I've seen. Looking at even at houses in the areas here in Dothan, this part of Dothan. Even the houses in this part of Dothan, which is not the best part of Dothan, are looking at $40,000 to $50,000. You know what I'm saying? So to be 16,000, dude, I'd be scared. Honestly, I ain't said I wouldn't do it, but I would imagine the foundation's probably not good. It needs a new roof. It needs an AC. It probably needs windows. If it's at 16,000, to me. Based on my experience. Now, I've not seen a $16,000 house, I can't, but,
They got 2 streets away over here, for example, the colleges, the South Apple trees, get on.
absolutely, yeah, for sure. Now, Apple, yes, so they're out there. But the question is, how big is the pool of people who are wanna buy on Apple Street?
I was just asking, what was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
lowest price you?
Yeah, and that is, I don't really, I will pay nothing for it, you. I'll give you $1 you give it to me, so. I'll take a property every week. So that, but to me, if you're looking at renting versus flipping, Apple Tree is a rental market every day of the week,
Yeah.
right, for me. But that's just, but even at 16,000, like I said, even at 16,000 on Apple Tree, you're not getting a whole lot. Because I've seen houses of 30, 40, 50,000 that you can see the sky. So even, not here to say trash, because it ain't trash, but even very,
Maybe we can agree that those cheaper ones like that, they cash flow so well that in the end, it becomes better down to.
I'm not saying it's not, yes, absolutely, I think there's definitely a possibility.
And I think it goes back to the 70%, figuring out which budget is.
If you can get it for 15,000 and it takes 65,000 to renovate it, now you're in for 80,000 and can sell it for 120, that's not a bad deal. Right? Or even if you kept it as a rental, you're in for 80,000, right? And can rent it for, let's say 1,000, you win it. But the person 15, but to me, if the person is 15, it's probably gonna take $50,000 to get it to the point where you can rent it. Even if you just put it on HUD. Because even HUD requirements are higher than paying cash for it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just based on my experience. I've only been doing this for a couple of years, so I'm not an expert or guru. But what I've seen that costs 30, 40,000 requires twice that much to get it to the place where, and then again, where Michael feels comfortable putting Michael's name on. Right, because I walk in some houses that I wouldn't sell. Because the quality wasn't there. Right, so not digging on anybody else, but for me, and then with Keitha, our name is very important to us. And what we put out there is very important to us. And so even for a rental property, it's gonna be a certain level. For us. Like I said, pain goes a long way, but it don't repair a foundation. Paint don't put the floor table. So, not saying it's not there, I'm not trying to say it's not there, it's just not in my experience. It's not in my experience. And there again, Apple Tree for the most part, and me and Joanna and our coworker Michelle. Like at some point, if y'all ever watched the show Good Bones, they canceled now, but Good Bones on TV, the daughter and the mother, flipping houses, she was redhead. They go into the areas and they do 3 or 4 houses in the same neighborhood, they bring the whole value of the neighborhood back up. We've had those conversations. I would love to do that. There are so many, I think, neighborhoods in Dothan to where if we got 3 or 4 houses back to looking good, it could bring that whole neighborhood back together. And that would be something I would love, that's, I ain't trying to pitch nothing, but in the back of my mind, I would love to bring communities back. And buying those kind of houses, it's an investment because the first couple of houses you sell ain't gonna be much value there as far as the bank is concerned, when it comes to the cost. But to bring the neighborhood back, to bring it back a homeowner. And then the second is the third and fourth house where you have to start making the money, but you didn't necessarily do it for the money, but of course you want to get time spent, so you want to get some compensation. But to me, bringing back neighborhoods too, absolutely. So that's a conversation I want to have, but down the road, is that, if everybody here bought a house in the same neighborhood.
Because I was just like you guys, I was starting up here, and as my confidence level got up, I said, you know what, I feel more confident taking on a much bigger project that was cheaper. And then before you know it, now we're down at the 16, 25, and 44 branches, and and it's confidence.
Yeah,
It's like you got something to prove and say, I wanna do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we're gonna let y'all know, like, I'm holding on hostage, like, thank you all.
It's hard, it's hard. You said, but that's what you said.